It's the end of April, and that means another best pieces roundup and another 10 beautiful pieces for you to look at. Of course, we have had Adepticon and Golden Demon, and I did a video about that, but I kind of want to avoid talking about all the Golden Demon trophy pieces since I think there has been more than enough discussion on those already. I don't need to throw my hat in the ring there. So let's jump in to this month's discoveries. Now, I want to start with this big display piece. This caught my eye, and I really love the vibe and the aesthetic given off. We have our chaplain biker seemingly driving through a tunnel, and Instagram user Vile Models has done a brilliant job with this. I like the setup, the composition, and the fact that there's detail in the scene, but it's generally desaturated, so the emphasis is on the biker. There's something quite satisfying about that almost monochromatic environment, and if you jump onto their Insta you can see videos of this thing in its special display case as well as work in progress shots. Obviously this leans into diorama more than just a base for vehicle, and it's all the better for it, of course. The rhetoric is, where is he going, where's he been, is this an underground facility, and I really love the attention given to all the extra pieces around the main corridor too, the detritus underneath, the almost hive city-like stuff above the arch, all these little greebles, and despite the detail, the lighting and the colours help the eye find that biker first. Next up is Andrea's box art for this piece from Aradia Miniature, sculpted by Rosa Frias. From Franco, aka Ilbaceta's custom semicircular plinth, to the hand-painted backdrop with the structure made from funny monkey things, this is truly beautiful. Those lovely warm tones just melting out of the piece throughout every detail. Our eyes like warm tones, and there's a reason all the photos taken at golden hour feel easy on the eye, and I think this piece really encapsulates a lot of that. It's sunny, it's cosy, and there are some stunning details like the book and the eyes on both the main character and her furry friend. There is some lovely detailing in the hems and the arms of her dress, which is all painted on, and who'd have thought you could paint things like blue trousers but still have that red tone come through. The eyes being green and so clear draw the viewer in immediately, and even that subtle bit of purple coming in on the top left just helps frame things really nicely. Now, we couldn't get through a video without a Space Marine, so this time it is Black Demon Studios' Scythes of the Emperor. This piece is pin sharp and the yellow is jumping out of the image. The setup is of course reasonably simple, but the execution is anything but. I love the decision to keep the palette limited, and beyond the two key colours, black and yellow, we really only have that muted dark red of the chainsword handle and a little bit of red light coming into the scene from above, which I think is just for the photo. I want to highlight a couple of things about this before you go slapping yellow and black paint on your Space Marines though. Firstly, look at the highlights on the black. We're going from a very dark grey through blue greys up to light blue, and on the metal parts up to almost white. And look at the difference between the metal parts and the trim and the armour, and how much of the metal is reflection versus how much of the armour is. Largely the same colours being used, but different techniques bringing out that material's finish. Also, look at how dark the yellow goes in the recesses and the shadows. We're almost down to like a rusty orange or brown, while the edges on the yellow are again almost white. So yes, we read it as black armour, and largely most of it is almost black, but those shiny highlights give us information about how reflective the surface is without changing how we view the colour. Okay, technically this piece was done for Golden Demon, but it was a notable pin winner, so you may not have seen this on videos doing the rounds. This is Hoodguard's piece, and it caught my eye, particularly since I love a ratling, partially because I have painted some of these myself in a little squad with the dog, and partially because it is a really nice little scene. There are some great bits of balance happening here. Despite that asymmetrical layout, we have the blue in the backpacks reflected top and bottom, the purple in the sniper's gun featured in the medals on the sergeant's chest, and of course a nice triangle of greens happening, and we also have red as a kind of spot colour featuring on every one of the minis without overpowering any of them. I also love the skull embedded into the rock face too, with the root coming out its eye. That is great stuff, from a painter who used this to mark his 2-year anniversary in the hobby. Let's take a look at this Kingdom Death mini from Dave Hanlon, aka Tex Red. So this caught my eye with the orange scheme, and also because it's a mini I've recently painted myself. This is Sci-Fi Lucy, and this particular example has been placed on a base made at Adepticon as part of Ben Comets' class. Teal and orange is of course a winning combo for me, and I like that the background teal is leaning towards green while the teal on the model leans towards blue, giving enough separation there for things to be readable. The weathering techniques with things like pigment powder really ground the mini in the scene, and knowing how fiddly this model is with things like those tiny straps and just the size of the parts make me really appreciate this more. Tex has got stacks of Kingdom Death pieces on his feed, so if you're not following, go and do yourself a favour. Next up, we have this innovative piece from Bartosz Pielak, who goes by Chokalapik on Instagram. So this is Blackthorn Miniatures' sculpt of a burning witch, but converted for an underwater scene. There are a whole bunch of caustic reflections right across the backdrop and all over the model too. I have yet to try something like this myself, but I really like the style. The ability to get the right skin tones here, looking at things like that subtle green-blue reflection on the underside, then highlighting the skin with those caustic reflections, as well as the shadow painted onto the backdrop. It all reads perfectly as underwater. And let's not forget those resin bubbles, right? I'm reading them as air bubbles, but I suspect material-wise those are clear resin, but my eye is having difficulty not imagining that they are also full of air. I also like how much backdrop we're getting here, since this could easily have been put on a smaller plinth and lost some of that impact. Beautiful work all round, and a really clever use of the sculpt. Okay, something a lot drier now. We are presented with this desert Mad Max style scene from Charlie, aka Carlo Magro on Instagram. This is a sculpt from Arminas Digiokas, and boy is there a lot of detail here. Instantly we get this dusty feeling from the base and the weathering, but the subject herself is painted cleanly and very well. You can see how the environment here means that the skin shadows are actually a deep red colour rather than sort of fleshier tones, while that tiny pop of green on the mohawk drags the eye upwards. It's another piece with that small green highlight in a largely red or warmer scene. We have complex tattoos, we've got faded eye makeup, we've got non-metallic metals, and lots of subtle iridescence in the jacket, the boots, and even that gun bayonet. And a fun little backside to the diorama as well, with the crow, the skeleton, and that pessimistic graffiti telling just a little bit more of the story. Okay, so now we have a piece by Minis from Guillermo. This is an adaptation of a piece of artwork by Eddie Gons, and what a brilliant setup. The painted backdrop framing this advancing marine as he wades ashore at night. And we know this is a nighttime scene even without the backdrop, because that black armour is highlighted in blue, and we have a nice bit of OSL from the headlamp, and generally a pretty dark scene. There's some lovely waves sculpted into the water, and your eye probably tells you that there's the other half of this marine below the plinth, right? Instead of looking like it's half a marine stuck on. So the storytelling, the framing, and the setup is definitely doing its job. Of particular interest is the reflection of the light sources in the water in front of the marine, which just goes to sell that kind of glossy, reflective surface beautifully. Now, Jamie, aka A Man Painting Miniatures, has really gone to town on this new Zaba art sculpt. Who'd have thought that a chicken would end up having so much red? Of course, it wouldn't be a Jamie piece without a stunning, vibrant background, but the piece itself is also wonderfully worked into that scene. These energetic red tones all around, but splashes of pastel green, yellow and blue in the hair, and the commitment to being a bit more abstract with the piece really caught my eye. Now, I love Jamie's pieces because they're so vibrant. I love his use of colour, his texture work, how he brings what looks like a kind of a chaotic, messy, more expressive approach, but he retains that refinement in the details. I mean, look at how well executed the eyes are, for example. If you like this sort of thing and you're not following Jamie, you definitely should be. His work is a real treat to behold. I want to finish this month with a bit of a mad conversion. This is a jump pack dreadnought. I mean, what's not to like, right? The scale of this thing is one thing, but the paintwork is also excellent. You've got this huge, almost certainly like super heavy beast of a machine, just lightly stepping off that terrain piece, propelled by the converted Storm Talon wings, waving this Nemesis Knight sword around. I mean, it's about as Warhammer as it gets. I've always liked the bigger dreadnought sculpts, and to see this taken further was really nice. And then let's just take a second to appreciate that warm golden yellow paint job, and accented with an almost petrol teal colour. The whole thing just works really well in my view. And if you like Cully's work, his Instagram has a few other dreadnought conversions and a whole host of Imperial fists for you to feast your eyes. Well, that's us for another month. I hope this has helped you find more miniature artists, sculptors, and expanded your miniature horizons a little bit. I have linked all the artists in the description below, and if you'd like to get involved in the discussion, feel free to comment if you want to see more of these. I've done a few now. I've been doing them since January, and I hope to do a full year of monthly roundups. Liking this video helps me get it out there, and if you're not subscribed, which you probably aren't, then it's free to click the button and you might get delivered the next roundup too. Until then, go finish something.